Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this February 20th, 2018 meeting of the Sustainability Commission of the City of Palm Springs. We're delighted to have all of you present today, commissioners and guests. If you would stand and join me in the flag salute. Here. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation,
under God,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Dan, if you would do the roll call, please.
Chair Jackson,
Present.
Vice Chair Clark,
Present.
Commissioner Baker, Commissioner Friedman,
Present.
Commissioner Futterman is absent.
And she notified us she was ill tonight, so she's absent and excused.
Yes. Commissioner Gauthier,
Present.
Commissioner Goins is also excused absence. Commissioner McCann,
Present.
Commissioner Santora is also excused. Commissioner Spry,
Present.
and Commissioner Baker.
Present.
Commissioner Wilson,
Present.
and Dara Shea.
Present.
We have a quorum.
Wonderful. The agenda was emailed to everyone and posted per city regulations, and I did get one sort of editorial correction just to alert you to. G3, I think I made a mistake and listed it as a standing committee on active transportation, and it should, having been alerted by Commissioners Wilson and Gauthier, it should be ad hoc committee on walkability and pedestrian planning. That's the correct term. So it's my mistake for listing it incorrectly. So we'll make that correction on future agendas. If there is a motion to accept the agenda as emailed out, is there a second?
Second.
All in favor say yes.
Yes.
Opposed say no. And the agenda is approved. Thank you. So, are there reports or comments, Jay, from you as staff person or others?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The only comment is that we received communication from Councilmember Roberts regarding styrofoam legislation, and I don't know if Commissioner Clark would like to address that in any reports he has.
I'll address that later during
Later?
committee
Okay.
reports.
Thank you very much, and that would be it then. Thank you very much.
And do we have, from council, do we have any questions or directions that we need to follow up on regarding the bike routes? Has there been a specific request that we?
Yes, the council, in reviewing some of the proposed changes to the road diets that have been going on, did want to discuss with the commission or have the commission look at one particular road.
I think it was Laverne.
Laverne, thank you.
Okay.
And I don't know if any of the commissioners had an opportunity to take that up, but that is correct.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Did council ask for a time frame that they want feedback, or is it immediate, or do we know?
We do not know,
Okay.
but
Okay.
I would assume it's there's a reasonable time frame would be acceptable.
Okay. All right. And my other question is, we had thought perhaps Tom Garcia would be here. Is that perhaps, or we don't know, or?
I did send him an invitation. I did not check with him today.
Okay.
He said a while ago that he would be here, but
Okay. Okay. All right. Well, if he makes it, if he makes it, we'll welcome him at any point. Okay. All right. Okay. Thank you, Jay. Okay. So we are at commission and student liaison reports. Dara, do you have anything you want to report tonight?
So I was looking through my emails in the past week, and my principal
apparently doesn't do email well, so I'll go talk to him in person. I was looking at the senders and I didn't see anything come from him, and it's been a few months because I was absent at the last meeting, so I will talk to him in person and have something prepared for the next
Okay,
meeting.
great. Thank you very much. We're at public comments. We set aside time at each of the meetings for members of the public to address the Sustainability Commission on issues that are relevant to our area of work. Is there anyone from the public who isn't scheduled otherwise to speak who would like to come forward and speak now? I'm used to saying, or forever hold your peace, but I see no one coming forward, so we'll declare public comment closed. So, Commissioner Baker, welcome. We have had Commissioner Carl Baker's appointment for a bit of time, but have not had a chance to welcome him officially and to have him speak and introduce himself to the commission. And so we invite you to do that now.
Okay, great. My name's Carl Baker. I'm a native of Los Angeles, went to USC undergrad, and went to law school back east and spent a number of years living in Manhattan before moving back to Palm Springs in 2001. I'm currently employed by Desert Age Project as Director of Legal Affairs and Legislative Affairs. In fact, I'll be in Sacramento tomorrow, knocking on doors at the Capitol, which I do in the following week as well. So I do that. I'm also on the board for the ACLU Desert Chapter and a lot of other nonprofit organizations with my colleague here. We tend to do a lot, as much as we can socially and for politics. That's pretty much it.
Great.
Single, no kids, no pets, no nothing, just...
Because you work too much, apparently. So, well, welcome. We're delighted to have you. And just to let commissioners know, in conversations with Commissioner Futterman, who has lots to do, she had taken on wellness as well as outreach, and she and I and Carl have all negotiated. Carl is going to assume some responsibilities for the wellness area, and that will allow Jen to focus, Commissioner Futterman, to focus on outreach with regard to the farmers market, film festivals, and those sorts of things. And we've kind of developed a bit of a job description that she feels comfortable and is full. So, so we're happy to have Carl as a new commissioner and your focus on wellness, which I think fits in well with the rest of your professional life. So thank you very much. We have Tom Garcia here. Would you like to join us? I mean, we're at a break and maybe can get you back to the rest of your life if you'd like to join us. Welcome.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
I understood that you were going to tell us a bit about where we are with the Dunn Road project and the RFPs and any bids we've received and where we are with funding and the ability to accomplish all that project, that sort of thing.
Certainly, and I understand there were also some questions on the road diets that were going before the city council.
Sure. We want to be sure if there's something we need to do, we want to be sure that we've got those instructions correctly from council.
Okay. The Dunn Road project. The city received 2 bids for the project. The estimate that came from the consultant that prepared the grant documentation. Let me back up for a second. Dunn Road is a city-owned parcel out in the hinterlands to the east of Palm Desert. If you drew a straight line from Palm Canyon Road down south to Highway 74, about 3/4 of the way you'd hit the city-owned parcel. It's about 40 acres. And back in the day, sometime in the, judging from what's out there, I think it would be the 60s, maybe late 70s, that was used as a dump site. And not just a scattered dump site, but a site where there are rows of household waste, everything from silverware to Legos. So it truly isn't a mid-century archaeologist's dream of what was being used at that time. But broken glass everywhere. The goal of the project and what the grant was received for was to clean up the site, remove the waste, and return it back to natural habitat and ensure that it was not used for a dump anytime in the future. The third goal has already been achieved because the road out there is almost impassable.
Except if you're dead.
It is very exciting to get out there. The first two are a little more problematic, and that's what the grant originally was given to the city for. The consultant that prepared the grant documentation had an estimate on how much it would cost. The city went out with the scope of work and that cost estimate, solicited bids. The grant that was received was about $460,000. The bids came in at 1.2 and 1.4 million. So the first bid, the apparent low bidder at 1.2 million, did not submit all the required documentation, bid bonds, so they were deemed unresponsive. The sole remaining bid was 1.4, which is $1 million more than we had available. So working with the Mountain Conservancy, we explained to them what had transpired. Their goal was still to get it cleaned up. They're looking at the possibility of funding additional funds for the project, and the city is looking at ways to minimize the expense. So between the two, more money and less cost, we hope to be able to get to a viable project. Currently, we're working with the contractor to find out what economies we can realize by making some modifications in the scope. Depending on what happens with the Conservancy, we might reject all bids and go out with a modified scope that's a little leaner and includes some cost savings and some recommendations from the Conservancy and also recommendations from the contractor. One of the big ticket items was plant establishment, where they were to collect seeds from the existing plants around and then reseed using those native seeds. That's a pricey proposal, so we're looking at other alternatives. So, but we do expect to go out again, either award the contract or go out again within the next 2 months. This has not been back to the City Council to award or reject. We anticipate doing that likely the second meeting in March or the first meeting in April. And
So, Commissioners, questions about Dunn Road?
none.
Okay. On to Laverne,
On to Laverne.
or other road diets and bike routes.
The city has been very successful in their road diet. Currently, it's called a road diet. There are other names that are being bandied about for it because road diet suggests that it is at the expense of vehicles, and that's not what it is. It's opening it up to other means of transportation. So for now, I'll use road diet until we come up with a better, more friendly term. But the city's been very successful in implementing road diets, improving access for bicycles and pedestrians, and the project that went to the City Council was one of the last pieces of creating a bike ped loop into downtown. One of the key components of that was the Laverne corridor, which is from Palm Canyon to, and without a map, Palm Canyon to the east.
Well, it would probably be where it reconnects with East Palm Canyon and Sunrise.
A little to the east of that is
Oh.
where it goes to, or a little
Maybe
the
only
west of
to
that.
Toledo then?
Trail.
Yes.
Longo Trail, which is essentially where the shopping center begins and is the back entrance to Smoke Tree and Twin Palms, not entirely.
Twin
but
Palms.
More or less.
Yes.
Meets it on the other side. I live in that
So-
neighborhood, so sorry about that.
So Twin Palms is where, right now it's a 4-lane arterial. The current ADT, average daily traffic, does not warrant the 4 lanes. And a traffic study indicated at build-out, it would not warrant the 4 lanes. There just wasn't there wasn't the need for it. So what was looked at was providing bike lanes, a buffer zone between the bike lanes and traveled way, one lane each direction, and then a two-way center turn median. That way, people could go in and out of their side streets and driveways. There was some significant opposition to that from some of the neighborhood groups and individuals. The city council opted not to include that in the bid that went out for the project at the last meeting. That is being included as an ad alternate so that we can at least get the contractors to include it with a price so that when we come back for award, there is the opportunity at award to either add it back in or as at a later date to add it back in as a change order. So it's on the table, but it is not, at the direction of the city council, has not been included in what is being, the base project is being bid at this time. The city council wanted to hear from the neighborhoods and from the community on their take, whether or not Laverne should be converted from a four-way arterial to a two-lane local street with the added on-street parking and bike lanes and two-way left turn lane, or whether it should remain as in its current configuration. I believe Denise has been contacting the neighborhoods and getting their input. That's been varied. Some support, some oppose. I think the council would like additional information from interested parties, this commission being one of them.
And so a statement from this commission, or would it be helpful for us in some way to also communicate with bordering neighborhoods, Indian Canyons, Twin Palms?
I think the neighborhoods have already had their outreach done.
Okay.
I think they're looking for as much input as they can get from interested parties, and this commission is one of those.
Okay, all right. And that information would go to Denise or to you?
It can go to Denise and to me.
Okay, all right. And Dan can give us Denise's email address?
Yes.
Okay, all right. All right, yes, commissioners, questions or comments about Laverne? Commissioner Friedman.
I've been fairly involved with this because one of the neighborhoods that was consulted is Indian Canyons, which I was on the board of until last week. The neighborhood, for reasons appropriate to it, has decided not to take a position, but rather has transmitted the information of a poll which came out essentially evenly divided. I understand from Denise that some of the other neighborhoods have expressed support, others are in opposition. I must say that some of the opposition, I spoke in favor of this at City Council, as Tom knows, when it came up on the 7th of February. Some of the opposition appears to be that there are massive traffic, based on the fact that there are massive traffic jams on Murray Canyon in front of my house day and night. That is not correct, and my position has been, having benefited from the, I guess now roughly 2 years ago, when Murray Canyon was added on to Toledo, which is one of the very first bike lanes, probably 2008, I believe, refurbished. There are no traffic jams. I see a very large number of bikers there, and I personally consider it an amenity, and as I said, I spoke in favor of it. So I hope our commission will take a position in favor of this. I did mention at City Council that the Indian Canyons Loop, and for those of you who are involved in the bike lane map, I did say please name it the Indian Canyons Loop, does show this as a Class 2 bike lane on all three streets, i.e. Murray Canyon, Toledo, and Laverne. And I do hope that we can work with council to make sure that that happens, because I must say that while I don't use Laverne an awful lot, I just simply don't see the massive amount of traffic that justifies having a four-way, and I do see a very large number of both pedestrians and bicyclists on Murray Canyon. I expect that if the loop were completed, they would be using it as I believe how it was intended and expected on the bike map.
Yes, other comments? Commissioner Wilson.
So one of the questions that I heard at the beginning of the last council meeting was a concern about the potential for additional projects constructed at the south end of Palm Springs, generating additional traffic. But it sounds like you mentioned that there are, at build-out, that even with the change in the design of Laverne, that there would not be too much traffic. Did I understand that correctly?
That's correct. The modeling that was done included build-out of the general plan. And there was a recommendation by the city council when they first heard this, I believe it was in 2016, that the circulation element of the general plan be amended to reflect the changes to the roadways. And the traffic study bore out that at build-out, it would still not meet the requirements for a 4-lane arterial.
Additional questions of Director Garcia? Thank you. That's been, your information on both topics has been very helpful. We appreciate it very much. Okay, so we are back to item B, presentations, and we have our first presenters, Bob Heinbaugh and Paul Hendrickson, who are here to talk to us about non-smoking public spaces and tobacco retail licensing. Welcome to the table, gentlemen. And just as a point of ancient history, probably 2 or 3 years ago, we had a student intern with the Department of Health of Riverside County who came and spoke to the commission about tobacco retail licensing, and probably the only other ancient people at the table would be Commissioner Friedman and Commissioner Wilson. We would recall her discussion with us. So welcome, gentlemen, and for raising that topic and others with us.
Thank you. My name's Paul Hendrickson, and I'm a resident of Palm Springs. And as I begin my remarks, I wish to thank the Commission for the time you've granted us to come and speak with you today regarding these issues, the TRP ordinance, and the Palm Springs Smoke-Free Ordinance. Let me start by telling you who we are and why we requested an opportunity to talk to you today. We're a small but growing grassroots ad hoc group of concerned residents who are focused on addressing the dangers of illegal sales of tobacco products to minors, and the health risks associated with exposure to secondhand and third-hand smoke in retail, public, and communal areas. We refer to ourselves as a citizens group for smoke-free Palm Springs. It is our intent, with our collective and growing experience, knowledge, and the city's operational governmental structure, to facilitate this commission's sustainability plan in, first, engaging community partners to provide health and wellness education and services, such as smoking cessation programs. Second, promoting activities that enhance cardiovascular and pulmonary, mental, social, and emotional health. Third, presenting the City Council with well-polished, well-researched, bulletproof proposals and plans for accomplishing our shared goals. As an ad hoc citizens group, our efforts began through our involvement with 1PS organizations, starting with the Ecology Committee. I will present to you the benefits of having our city adopt Riverside County Ordinance regarding illegal sale of tobacco products to minors. Robert Heinbaugh will then introduce to you a proposal regarding the development of a city ordinance to amend the municipal code which regulates clean air, smoking, and tobacco product use. Palm Springs has a letter F grade from the American Lung Association for lack of public health and safety policies related to tobacco. Not just any F grade, but the worst F grade a city can get in California. Palm Springs is decades behind most cities in California, and we need to change that. We need to bring up our GPA. Together we can put Palm Springs on the right side of history, the right side of the practical argument, the right side of the moral argument, and the right side of the business math. We're supported by a very long list of organizations and agencies such as the American Lung Association, the American Cancer Society, American Heart Association, the CDC, the Riverside County Department of Health, and the list goes on and on. Very high caliber, extremely credible sources and supporters. So I'll start with giving the highlights of the TRP, which is the Riverside County Ordinance. The TRP, as it's often called, is the Tobacco Retailer's Permit, and it's a permit and enforcement program designed to prevent illegal sales and use of tobacco to minors. Here are some of the highlights. The ordinance brings cities in Riverside County into compliance with federal, state, and local laws regarding tobacco sales and use by persons under 21 years of age. According to the CDC, 99% of tobacco industry victims we call lifetime smokers start smoking before the age of 21. The ordinance reduces the incidence of tobacco-related disease and illegal sales. The County of Riverside Department of Environmental Health issues the retailer's license, monitors compliance and concerns, and is wholly responsible for enforcement and citations of all provisions of the ordinance. There is zero budget impact on the City of Palm Springs financially and in terms of personnel. It's all handled at the county level. The ordinance brings illegal tobacco sales to minors up to the same status as alcohol decoy programs currently in use by implementing a similar decoy program for tobacco sales. The State of California Stake Act program conducted their research and report that illegal tobacco sales to minors in Palm Springs is 3 times the national average, and this is a conservative number. Currently, there's no enforcement of the illegal tobacco sales in Palm Springs without the Riverside County TRP ordinance. Palm Springs is one of only a small few remaining cities in Riverside County that have not yet adopted the Tobacco Retailer's Permit ordinance. All but 2 cities adopted the ordinance verbatim, and the 2 that created their own ordinance have failed to be successful in implementation. Our neighboring cities, Cathedral City and Desert Hot Springs, already adopted the county's TRP ordinance, as has even the newest city in Riverside County, Jurupa Valley, which has already had it for 6 years. The history of this ordinance, oddly enough, began right here in the Coachella Valley in 1990, started in Rancho Mirage, and is spread throughout the state. Full adoption of the Riverside County ordinance results in success. Amendments are possible after adoption. With this Commission's support and endorsement of the TRP, we believe it will lend credence to the 5th item in your Sustainability Commission plan, specifically the last phrase, which reads, actions that community members can take to live healthier lifestyles. As for the TRP, the action we're requesting from this Commission is an endorsement of the TRP for Palm Springs as we bring it forward through 1PS Ecology Committee. And please know, there's already a great deal of enthusiastic support in our city and on our city council for smoke-free ordinances in Palm Springs. But make no mistake, the tobacco industry efforts are alive and well and organizing in Palm Springs. Thank you for allowing me to take the time to present to you the TRP.
Good afternoon, members of the Commission. I'm Robert Heinbaugh, and I'm a resident of Palm Springs, and I wish to thank you for your time and you've provided for me and address the issues of health and well-being for the youth, other residents, and visit the multitude of guests who visit our city. From the mission statement of your commission, you state health is influenced by many factors, including genetics, behavior, and our environment. The air we breathe influences our health and wellness. Without a healthy environment, there can be no healthy people. Last year, during the Heroes in the Park celebration, Councilmember J.R. Roberts and many other city leaders frequently remarked about the inclusive nature of Palm Springs as evidenced on that particular occasion by the new facilities for our disabled residents. On that day, we celebrated the Council's vision to provide for the health and wellness of these members of our community. However, that vision needs to be expanded, and our elected officials, including the leadership of our assorted commissions and boards, have a responsibility to preserve the environment and increase equity by protecting the health and well-being of our citizens and our visitors also. As Paul cited, the American Lung Association has given Palm Springs a letter grade of F regarding the city's protection of its citizens' and visitors' health, specifically in areas of smoke-free outdoor air, smoke-free multi-unit housing, reducing the sales of tobacco products to minors, and several other criteria. We should be alarmed that tobacco sales to our children are more than 3 times the national average. Facts from the federal government prove that secondhand smoke, indoor and outdoor, causes more than 42,000 deaths every year, and health costs for non-fatal secondhand smoke-related issues exceed $5.6 billion annually. Secondhand smoke kills. That's a fact. Our children's access to tobacco products at a rate triple the national average kills. That's a fact. We have statistical data which supports that smoking bans in such places as outdoor patios of restaurants and bars has little to no financial impact on a business's balance sheet. Actually, the opposite occurs in virtually every instance from, for example, a before and after study in Beverly Hills to other studies across the country. In New York City, revenues increased 8.7% 1 year after implementation of their smoking ban. Lexington, Kentucky found no negative economic impact after their ban went into effect. Similar reports are the same in Colorado, Massachusetts, Minnesota, Texas, Washington State, and others. And all of this is according to data from the Centers for Disease Control. This is evidence supporting another point within your mission statement where you cite the need to strengthen the economy of Palm Springs. Isn't that a great idea to combine building the economy while improving the health and well-being of both citizens and visitors? Initially, Paul and I took this proposed ordinance to 1PS for their consideration, and following several months of in-depth discussion, 1PS felt they couldn't assume responsibility for the ordinance. First, at that time, because we were not representatives of an organized neighborhood, simply private citizens. And secondly, the executive committee suggested that the ordinance as we presented it would be better handled in segments. And subsequently, we separated the TRP, which Paul presented to you, from the ordinance, and now the TRP is moving through 1PS. The Clean Air and Regulation of Smoking and Tobacco Product Use Ordinance that we are proposing was presented to one member of the City Council. We followed his advice as to some strategies, and we are now bringing the ordinance to the Sustainability Commission for your support, for your leadership in bringing this clean air proposal to reality and to implementation. We're calling on the Sustainability Commission as city leaders to take action to provide this essential protection by pushing for a comprehensive clean air, non-smoking public policy. Not to address this clean air issue, I believe, is morally irresponsible. Your mission statement clearly identifies the desire for promoting Healthy Planet, Healthy You events annually in each neighborhood, in schools, and creating new health and wellness metrics. There's no better time than now to take that next step. Together, we can move Palm Springs toward a healthier environment with healthier people. And I have here, which I will make available to you, are highlights of the proposed ordinance. And with that, I'd like to thank you for your time and for your attention.
And thank you both. So the paper coming around is about TRP or?
No, what I'm passing to you are, excuse me, what I'm passing to you are the highlights of the ordinance that we're proposing for the clean air and non-smoking.
Okay, all right.
Okay.
Just a couple of follow-up questions I have. In Riverside County, what is the retail permit or license fee that they would require for each retail outlet to purchase annually? Do you know the dollar amount?
Yes, it's $428 annually.
Okay. And then I understand that then there's a per pack of cigarette fee or tax that is added on to help fund the decoy program. Is that right? Or is the decoy program completely funded by the permitting?
It's funded through that permit fee.
Okay.
Completely.
Okay, so there is no additional tax on the tobacco product itself, as far as you know?
Correct.
Okay.
That is correct.
All right, okay. All right. Commissioners, questions of these gentlemen? Commissioner McCann?
There's a new legal smokable substance in California as of January 1st. And two questions for you on that. Is there any data on dangers of secondhand smoke for marijuana substances? And does the ordinance address marijuana smoking in any form?
According to the definition of tobacco by the state of California, marijuana is included in that definition of tobacco.
Other questions, Commissioner? Yes, Dara Shea.
So how do you plan to approach curbing the use of smoking marijuana in public spaces for people who use it for medical benefits?
Currently, the use of marijuana in public, for example, is the same as alcohol. That's already a state law. It isn't legal to use it in public.
Thank you.
Other questions? Yes, Commissioner Baker.
So you mentioned, I'm a little confused on the minors, and I don't smoke, I've never smoked. I only see cigarettes sold at Albertsons and Ralph's. And where are people buying these cigarettes illegally?
Surprisingly, there's a lot of places, and through this process we found even donut shops sell them. Surprised us. And we are talking about two different ordinances, if that's what you mean. One is a county ordinance, which is a TRP, which exclusively addresses illegal sales. It's very much like the decoy program that exists already, and for alcohol. So liquor stores and restaurants, you see in the newspaper sometimes how they get caught in the decoy sting programs. There isn't such a thing for tobacco sales unless the ordinance is adopted.
And what is, I'm sorry, Commissioner Baker, what is the age of responsibility or legal age for purchasing a tobacco product? Is it 18?
21.
Oh, it is 21?
It is 21.
Okay.
Let me say that there's an exception to that. You can purchase tobacco if you're 18, if you have a military ID.
Active
Okay.
military.
Active military ID.
Yeah, okay.
There's one caveat to that. The city can adopt to not recognize that exemption. That is built into it as well.
Right.
But that's city by city.
Commissioner Baker, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Okay, all right. Okay, Commissioner Spry? Or
I don't want to cut.
Commissioner Spry?
Hi, sorry. Maybe maybe I missed this, but for the ordinance you're proposing, what, if any, other cities have this kind of ordinance?
There are a number of, Laguna has no smoking where there's air.
And how long have they had that?
They put it in less than a year ago, and it's been very successful. San Diego is very similar, not quite as extensive as Laguna. Santa Monica is also along the same lines. The city of Pasadena, which is probably even closer to us. As a matter of fact, Paul's family Paul himself helped draft the no smoking in multi-unit housing in 1980 in Pasadena, and goes from there.
And are there any, let's see, like tiered approach? For example, some of these seem really easier and more obvious to implement, others longer. Is there, with these cities that do have these ordinances, did they start with maybe, certain spaces and then move out? Or is this just like a boom, bam, January 1, we're done? You know what I mean?
It's the personality of the city themselves. Some cities adopt quite easily, and others it's more of a challenge and more of a process. But there are many cities who have had these ordinances for a long time, and to compartmentalize the difference between the TRP ordinance, which is a Riverside County ordinance, and the proposed smoke-free ordinance for the city of Palm Springs, which has, by the way, already been written. It's been reviewed by two of the top attorneys in the state who specialize in public health, safety, and tobacco control. And that's the ordinance which is already in the hands of one of our city council members who's asked us to come forward.
Got it, yeah. I see.
Yes. Commissioner Wilson, did you have your hand up? No, you did not. Okay. Commissioner
Yes, so
Baker.
I own a property in a multi-unit in Santa Monica, and when this law went into effect 4 or 5 years ago, it was caused a lot of consternation. However, I lived upstairs, and I had a fellow person in my condo that lived around on the ground floor, and I could sit in my room and smell the cigarette smoke swirling away to the front of the building. And when the law went into effect, she was effectively barred from doing that, and it really was beneficial.
Correct, and now HUD has made it nationwide that all of their units smoke-free.
Oh, inside as well?
Yes, inside and out.
And,
Common areas within the HUD housing.
wow. And, sorry, so with this ordinance, when you talk about residential buildings, it's not just the common space. It's if you are in a residential, you cannot smoke inside your place?
Correct.
Even marijuana?
Correct.
Correct.
Got it, wow. That's a lot to legislate, okay.
Other commissioners, questions of our presenters? Okay. Well, oh, yes, Commissioner Gottlieb.
I'm just not clear. Are you asking us to weigh in on the TRP or on the ordinance or both?
Differently on both. The TRP, we're coming to you for an endorsement. That's going to be brought forward to the city council probably through Ecology Committee. That's the track it's taking now. So we're going to be looking for an endorsement of that. And with the city ordinance, we're looking for your participation and cooperation. Perhaps you'd consider an ad hoc committee that could focus on it and we could work with them.
So this evening, we do not have this on the agenda, so it is not appropriate before us tonight to discuss. What seems to me, although we can certainly take other suggestions of the wishes of the commission, it seems as if, Commissioner Baker, this falls squarely in your new duties in health and wellness. And so is it possible that I could consult with you and we could
Oh, definitely,
consider,
yeah. We're actually
consider some
working
steps
on a smoking cessation
forward?
program with the grant from the CDC with DAP.
Through your work?
It's
Yeah.
just starting,
Okay.
yeah.
All right. So perhaps we could talk and then if we might place something on the agenda for
Sure.
the next commission meeting?
Mr. Chairman, if I might?
Please.
I have copies of the ordinance. I have 2 copies here, and I leave it with Commissioner Baker.
Okay.
And at the same time, state to you that the American Lung Association received recently a grant in about $1.5 million, and the American Cancer Society also received a grant for about $1.5 million, both of them focusing on no smoking specifically in Palm Springs, one for the LGBT community and the other one for the Native American community.
We're a recipient of part of that grant, yeah.
Yeah.
But that does beg the question, according to this, it seems like the only place you would be allowed to smoke is in a single-family residence.
Basically, that's true.
And it's not a new experience. It's been going on in other cities throughout California for a long time, including Pasadena.
Yeah. All right. Well, we appreciate that. And
you.
Commissioner Baker, if I could have one of those copies and.
And we can email them to
Oh,
you,
okay.
too.
So
We'll
it's-
email both so you can
Okay. All
send
right.
them around.
Okay. Perfect. And we'll see
Great.
if
Happy to, thank you.
there is something that might happen on the agenda in an upcoming meeting. So thank you both.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our second presenter is here, Georgia Severite, who is with the Clean Cities Coachella Valley. And so, Georgia, welcome back. We heard a bit from you last month, and we're happy to hear from you tonight.
Thank you for making me do this today. Really appreciate it. I did bring just something to follow through with on my sheets. I'll just pass this around, and a little bit more information on Clean Cities. Now, my main focus here today, and before, as I said, thank you for all of you to providing me this opportunity to talk about clean cities. Well, wait, till everybody get there. Okay. I'm not quite sure how many people are familiar with the Clean Cities program. Is there any way I could ask if everybody is very familiar with it, or you're not familiar with it? Not. Okay, great. That's why I'm here today. I usually we work a lot with, before with Michelle Maician, and we put out a lot of activities together, and I know we have a new group, and I wanted to kind of present what we do and to continue to work with Palm Springs. So my reason for being here today. In the first part, I just wanted to let you know what Clean City is all for us. We are a Clean City, Coachella Valley region. We work in the Coachella Valley area. We do all the cities and all the surrounding desert cities too. That's our focus. And our main thing is we work with stakeholders and local fleets to help implement alternative fuel vehicles. This includes information on vehicles and funding and technical aspects of that, training, testing, safety, and so forth. Our coalition is a 501c3 tax-exempt organization. And before I go into the National Clean Cities program, I just want to let you know where we were coming from. In 1996, Clean City Coachella Valley region was designated by the Department of Energy Vehicle and Technology Program in this area, and we've been in this area from 1996. We were at the beginning housed under Sunline Transit Agency. And as you know, Sunline Transit Agency was the first fleet that ever turned overnight. All their buses parked, and then they start out with 100% of all their buses being alternative fuel, clean natural gas. Now they have electric buses, they have hydrogen buses going out, they have funding they're going to be promoting, and they're going to be putting on a state-of-the-art training facility for hydrogen. So they're big. We just did the president of our coalition, we just went to a meeting at Washington, D.C., Energy Summit at Washington, D.C., where we talk to Congress leaders. What we do when we speak with Congress leaders, we are telling them what's going on in the Coachella Valley region. So we try to get information from all the cities, all the fleets. We want to participate. We want to help with funding. We have done that in even City of Desert Hot Springs. We have worked with them in getting funding for a lot of their electrical vehicles and helping with infrastructure development. So we are there. We work with Palm Springs, all the cities. Palm Springs, you guys are a leader in this field, and per se, I wanted to talk with you today and get you more familiar with what we do. So on the next one, we say why Clean Cities. Clean Cities is a program within the U.S. Department of Energy Vehicle Technology Office. The DOE program, called the DOE, Department of Energy, mission is to ensure the United States security and prosperity of addressing energy, environmental, nuclear challenges through transformative science and technology solution. So I know I only have 10 minutes or maybe less than that, so I'm not going to go deep into it because you can go, actually, there is so much more if you wanted to know about it that I can kind of reach out to you and send you more information. But most of it, as I said, the benefits of the program is we reduce petroleum consumption. Transportation accounts for more than 70% of the nation's petroleum use. So the program has up to 2015, they started in 1993, and they have reduced up to 8.5 billion gallons of petroleum since they began during that time. And just to go back a little bit, we started out with the Energy Policy Act of 1992. This program came through from that program. We reduced greenhouse gas emission, and we have done 1.3 million passenger. We've reduced, the amount that we've reduced of vehicles that are actual gasoline vehicles on the street is about 1.3 million passenger cars passenger cars off the road for 19. My stats right here is for 2015 actually, and reduce dependence on imported petroleum. So we've been doing a lot of activities to do with that. The portfolio, whatever our main thing and main focus is, replace, reduce, and eliminate. Replace the petroleum, replacing the vehicles, and we are fuel neutral. So not only do we do electric, hydrogen, ethanol, and all these other things, we're very neutral, and we work with all the OEMs. We work with all the dealerships that have these vehicles. The Coachella Valley have a lot of these vehicles in their dealership. They're having a hard time getting them off the lot. So one of the biggest things that we want to do is to get these vehicles off the lot. And although we are doing it within our cities, we want to do more bigger, larger workshops and activities that we are sending this out to the public and showing that. I'll go faster. Okay, so Clean Cities has, local partnership. We're partners with business leaders and educators in information. We do information, we have education, we do technical problem solving. We have a wealth of resources, just a wealth of resources. We have a lot of everything to do with, as I was telling Dan that we're talking about idle reduction, and we have all the printed materials, all the different things that we could do a campaign on it in idle reduction. So it would be a lesser cost to the city if they were putting out that if they were using, or they were they wanted to see, what they could do regarding Clean City in that area. So and I don't know if I tell you, we're federally funded through the U.S. Department of Energy also. We have 100 co-legions all around. Tell me when I'm reaching out of time. Okay, I'll go faster. Okay, so it's 100 co-legions, but mine is down here in the Coachella Valley region, and I really wanted to kind of give you a little bit more heads up. In the book, the booklet that I sent, you can see a little bit of the literatures and stuff. I put a little bit to do with idle reduction, a little bit to do with the newsletter. We have websites. We have, we're on the National Clean Cities website. If you Google www.cleancities.com, you will see the whole thing come up. Just everything you can think of for resources for getting fleets and getting cities. We did a whole big thing in the city, in this region, to do with, and I did that with Michelle when we started doing alternative fuel vehicles, and actually the campaign of promoting cities to move that forward. We did workshops and all that, some by just, directly just us. Local partnership, and we're in with a lot of partners to do with national partners, and you will see a lot of them have worked with Clean Cities in helping to get their fleet to either using propane or electric or clean natural gas or liquid natural gas. So there's a lot of large fleets that we're using, and that's our national partnership program. I think we work a lot with FedEx in the area. You'll see a lot of that. UPS, they're having a lot of their vehicles coming around now that are electric or clean natural gas. So, and there's on your paper you can see like Staples. We're working with them, Best Buy, all these large entities as a group, as a national program, and working with their program in getting their fleets and getting funded. And what Clean Cities we're like on the ground here, and kind of are the people that we are the ones that will talk with them and let them know what's going in the area. And what we do help in getting funding. We've done a lot to getting funding for these programs. As I said, we have information and educational websites that will give just a wealth of information. I'm trying to catch my time. And newsletters, educational program. We do webinars. Every month there's a webinar that comes out, so fleets can use it. We work with College of the Desert to put on training for technicians that are doing clean natural gas, or if anything. We did a first responder, which is getting first responder when they get to the scene of an accident to know what to do. It's different when you have to deal with a car. This is an electric car, a hydrogen car, or a car that they're not accustomed to. We have done one we have two workshops regarding that. And we did a big one with College of the Desert, and we would love to do another one within the city to do with first responders to accident scenes when they're using an alternative fuel vehicle. We go through to do with all the different Recovery Act and money and all the projects. Clean Cities have awarded millions of dollars in projects, and they do regarding alternative fuel vehicles and so forth. So, make it. So my main thing, we're working with CVAC also to get on their Energy and Environmental Resource Committee. We'll be partnering with them. We're working through with Sunline Transit Agency, so part of what they're doing, we're working right now in getting back housed within Sunline Transit Agency to get an office in there. We had one over across the street at CVAP, but most of the time it's like, they will accommodate workshops, or we can use their office space to do meetings and all and so forth. And we've done meetings with Palm Springs too. So I know Palm Springs had changed their electric vehicle promotion. I'm trying to remember what your name was at the time, to more of a health the mayor's health fair that you guys are doing right now, and definitely would like to be a little bit more to include in a more specific way to do with clean air in transportation, to get dealerships out there, to get us out there, not just as a vendor, but to be more active in that program, or to be on the flyer to say Clean City is going to be out there. The dealerships are going to be out there. We're going to put in all those cars. So it's an idle reduction. We talk about Odyssey, which is a national alternative fuel day that is nationally known all around. That almost all the states do the National Alternative Fuel Day. When fleets come out, we have Electric Vehicle Plug-in Day that we wanted to promote also. That's a national, that's a day that, around the entire United States. We're trying to get through funding workshops for fleets, community members, and so forth. So mainly organize and facilitate fuel and technology-specific workshops that we do, outreach and education, and resource for fleets, cities, municipalities, working with Congress leaders, and so forth. I think I used up all my time. Or maybe went over it.
Well,
or went too fast and you don't understand nothing.
No, I want to ask commissioners if you have questions of Georgia about this. Yes, Commissioner McCann.
Georgia, my question is, can you tell us anything about the Office of Energy Efficiency and Renewable Energy at DOE, its current status with respect to senior management at the DOE? Is it still supported?
It is still supported. We know we had a problem with that, and we weren't sure whether it was going to be, but we got funded again to continue. So it's up and running. Yeah.
Other questions? Yes, Commissioner Sprague.
Yeah, can you just be a little more specific about what is your ask to us? What would you like to see us do? You've educated us, and you kind of said, hey, take a little bit of this budget, you're doing this, that, but do you have any really specific asks from us?
Yes, and I usually look through your year and see what you had scheduled from the Sustainability Department for activities. I would like to be involved or see something more to do with alternative fuel vehicles and infrastructure and high technology vehicles. I would like to partner or work with the City of Palm Springs to either do an idle reduction campaign, which is including businesses and schools and so forth.
To reduce
also,
vehicle idling, is that what you're saying?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Although they have one that's there, we still have schools that have parents with vehicles that just sits there and idle. And maybe private buses that will, maybe smaller ones, but they're still there and they're idling. And to even, you go to the In-N-Out Burgers or anywhere else, and you'll see cars going through, they're idling, stopping in front of business, they're idling. So it's just to put a word out to let people know, more knowledgeable of what it is, that shutting off your car, and it's actually better, because a lot of, it's just not knowing why people just like, okay, shutting off my car and turning it on, I'm going to be burning more gasoline, and you don't. So it's just educating the public to let them know and giving out resources and telling them about it, that will make it more of a, or having, like I put in your packet, just a little things to do with idling. We have stickers, we have leaflets, we have all kinds of little things that you could give out to say, stop idling. Key ring thing that go on, don't idle. So, and most of the times when you present this to schools, they will, the children, or the young ones, whether, high school, elementary, or middle school, is something that they will talk with their parents. They'll say, okay, don't idle the car, don't do this, do that. So posters that we could make, put up in schools, and just like that, to put that out. So that's the idle, and there's a whole campaign for that. There's letters, there is having them sign something, like businesses, or people to sign something to say, I promise I won't idle. I mean, a whole wealth of information that we have in printed material that's already printed. So it wouldn't cost the city anything for putting it out, unless they want to make, of course, their own activities. Also, the alternative fuel vehicle, there's like a couple, two that stands out. It's Odyssey, which is a national fuel day that is all over the United States, to be more part of that. And National Alternative Fuel Day, it's a day when we bring out all the dealership. We tell them all what, Sunline Transit Agency will come out with their vehicles and have it ready. We have different, all the vehicles at Palm Springs. You guys have so many. Look in your parking lot. You have your special designated areas for vehicles to park. You guys have done so much with getting electric vehicle infrastructures in, and the CNG thing is, infrastructure is down there. So you really wanted to promote that, and that is promoted nationally. So it's going to be on the news. It's going to be here. They put out a big magazine that shows it, and that includes us when we put these things on. So it's a national thing. And when we go to, every year we go to D.C. and we talk to Congress leaders and stuff like that, we're sharing them and presenting them. Here is what's going on in the city of Palm Springs. Here's what's going on here. Here's what's going on here. So we want more to promote within the cities of what we're doing, because we might be doing it, but it's not out there. So we want to get through to doing that. Did I answer that question? Okay, so the 2 days would be the National Alternative Fuel Day, and then in September, it's the specific to electric vehicle, that one is. And that's EV Day, when all the electric vehicles will come out. They might do, different cities do different things. So it depends on how deep you want to get into it. Might be.
And what is that day?
Usually it's in September.
Okay.
I haven't a specific date yet for that, but it's in September.
Okay.
When you have the national. And you could have like maybe a parade, or the cars going through downtown Palm Springs, or something to do with that, and they're all maybe hydrogen, electric, the buses.
I think Commissioner Baker had a question as well.
Yes, two questions. The first one is on idling. Because of the extreme weather conditions we face here, especially in the summer, I would find parents reluctant not to sit in their cars with the air conditioning on while they're waiting for their children to come out of school, among other things, just because it's hot and you're not going to turn the engine off and roll down the window. Secondly, for the vehicles, are we focusing more on fleets or individuals? It seems like it would be easier to approach fleet sales rather than individual sales.
And you're correct on that, because most of what our focus is on the fleets in the area, especially the larger fleets, because it's like if you get them to start doing it, then it trickles down to the others. So definitely. But at the same token, we want to communicate this to the, when we do large community events, to the person that might just want to buy an electric car and want to know more about it. So we do want to let them know, if you need to get an electric car, this is this is the infrastructure that we have, this is what can do, this is the funding, and there's funding available for these cars. So we do want to do that, but you're correct. We want to start with the cities and fleet and larger fleets in the area.
It's still unanswered. How do we address the question, which is definitely present here, even today when it's cold, if you're picking up your kid from school or something and you do have to wait 5 minutes or whatever, I wouldn't turn my car off and just sit in the heat. I mean, what's the solution to that issue?
And that's something that, because we have other campaigns that go on, I know it's a little bit different in the Coachella Valley, in this area, especially because of the heat in summertime. And so that's something that we could address, and usually because we're so national, it's something that we put out to other coal-agents to say, give me your best practices. What do you do when this happens? And, we're getting feedback on there. My thing would be, are they gonna turn off their car and go out, get out of their car and go get their kids? Maybe not. Maybe they're not gonna want to do that because you're already in the car. So those are issues and challenges. And that's one of the things, even with alternative fuel vehicles and infrastructures and what we do, we want to hear these things, and we want to address these things. And we do a meeting every month with DOE, and we bring these things out. So we have others in the program that will say, okay, this is what this city have tried, and this is what this city has done to work in that, for that specific thing. But yes, that is a challenge.
Thank you. All right, I think we need to move along on our agenda, so I don't see any other commissioners' questions at the moment. Georgia, thank you. We will see if there are some synergies that we can have together. And please do keep in touch with Dan about what's going on with Palm Springs, and we'll see if there's some connections we can make.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we are at agenda item C, the minutes of the January 16th, 2018 meeting. I think Dan sent us a report, a copy of those minutes. Is there a motion to accept those minutes as they were finally presented?
I so move. I believe I sent a very small correction to Dan, so I would move as corrected.
Is there a
They were
second?
corrected.
Yeah.
I second.
Second by Commissioner Spry. All in favor say yes.
Yes.
Opposed say no. Abstain, and motion carries. We have Gary Calhoun for the recycling report.
Very brief this evening. We just had our shredding and e-waste event this past Saturday. It was much better attended than the one we had prior. There was at least over 100 vehicles that came through. And just as background, the city currently offers 4 shredding and e-waste events per year where the residents can bring their sensitive documents or their bank statements and tax forms and things like that, and they're shred on the spot, and it's at no cost to the residents. The next one that we're going to have is Saturday, April 21st, and that will be held in conjunction with Palm Springs Disposal's Spring Cleanup. Again, as background, Palm Springs Disposal is our franchise waste hauler. They're the only ones authorized to haul waste in the city. And twice a year, they offer an event where residents can bring almost any material that they want, except for hazardous waste, to the back parking lot of City Hall and drop it off for free. The week prior to that, residents can call for a bulky item pickup at their curb, so they don't have to haul it in on a Saturday or if they're not able to. So our next event will be held in conjunction with them, and I would think that our attendance would be much more. So I'm looking forward to that. The only other thing I have is a reminder, we're still looking for suggestions for beverage container grants. We have $13,000, which the city receives on a per capita basis, and that's funded out of the CRV values that everybody pays when they buy soda or whatever, water.
Will there be something said in the waste reduction report about that?
We will talk about it.
Okay, great. Commissioner Friedman and then Commissioner Baker.
I received a comment via 1PS from somebody who did attend the event and suggested, that at least when he went, he didn't think there were very many people. So he suggested that we coordinate, Daniel, you coordinate with Denise Goolsby, particularly for the next one, so that she publicizes the event ahead of time in her a weekly Office of Neighborhoods report, which goes out to all of the neighborhoods just to provide some additional information to let folks know that it's happening.
And mine is also sort of similar. I only knew they existed because I was at the last Sustainability Commission meeting. I don't receive anything printed or electronic notifying me of the dates.
What we've done in the past, and I'm not sure that it was done this past, for this past event, but usually what we do is we include a flyer in Palm Springs Disposals. They're kind enough to include it in their monthly or their tri-monthly quarterly billing. And that usually goes out. Now, I'm not sure if it went out this time or not, but it usually announces the dates and it usually has other information about recycling and solid waste and such included in that flyer.
The problem with that is all of my bills are electronic, so I never look at a bill. It's all paid It just happens.
It's always out on the city's website, and it's usually out on Palm Springs Disposal's website, their events as well.
Other commissioners' questions? All right, Gary, hang around if you want for the waste reduction discussion, if you have time for that. We are at D, old business. Item 1, the tree and plaque dedication for Michelle is not going to be what Dan just sent you. So Dan, update us. Or Jay, whomever.
Thank you. We received word from the city manager's office that he will not be able to attend on the planned date, is that the 27th? Tuesday. And what they proposed as alternatives is the day after, the 28th of February, or Thursday, March 1st, sometime after 3 p.m., I believe. 5:15 seemed to work with the group. Or sometime after that, if we want to push it out into the, a little further out into the future at this point in time.
I think there was some interest in having it as soon as possible, just to be timely. So why don't we just go ahead with the 28th, Wednesday? Is that a council meeting night?
No.
No, it's because council's first and
I
third.
think the only reason we changed it was because Commissioner Friedman said that that's the night of the Opera Guild, or.
Oh, okay.
And he wouldn't be able to attend, and that the mayor may also be at the opera, so I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know for that, for the fact that I have a personal conflict for the 28th, and while it's not a major religious holiday, it is Purim that night, and I'm not sure that there would be any overlap, but those are two potential, and I'm going to the opera instead of the Megillah reading, but anyway, those are two potential conflicts for the 28th, so I personally would prefer the 1st or the 27th, so, but 27th is possible, so.
Is David Reddy available on the 1st?
He is.
Well, then why don't we go with March 1st?
Will do.
And the time of 5:15 was selected to have it convenient for city employees or for the community who might be working persons to be able to attend. Does 5:15 still make sense for city folks? Okay, all right, so it's March 1st at 5:15. That is a Thursday, and if you can get that correction out to city staff. And Dan, if there are some old volunteer email groups that you've got in the system that we could get that information out to folks who might have been sustainability office volunteers, that would be great.
Yeah, I did send it out to past commissioners, and so I will
okay.
do that and see what else we have.
Okay.
I do have the plaque here that will go on the tree.
Or on the stone.
On the stone
rock.
near the tree.
Okay. Perfect. Great. Okay. Thank you. All right. Anything else there? We're good. Okay. Item 2, Commissioner Futterman is ill tonight. She did want you to know that she is planning to attend, assuming she's well, the event in Riverside, which is being sponsored by the same organization that could sponsor a film festival here, and she's planning to attend to see how that works. And I don't know if anybody else is planning to. Commissioner Gauthier is going to attend as well, so we'll have some immediate feedback on that possibility. Anything else, Commissioner Gauthier, we should say?
Just that event is on the 24th from 6 to 9 p.m. It's a 6 to 7 o'clock VIP happy hour kind of thing, and then the film runs from 7 to 9. Anybody's welcome to go. It's about $20 for the film and $45 if you're going to do the cocktails and so forth.
All right. All right, we're at item 3, and we'll just, if there are any reports on our activity plans for A, B, C, D, or E that you were not going to discuss in your subcommittee reports, we would hear them now. Sure, go ahead. Vice Chair Clark.
Well, Dan has put together a really good draft of a leaf blower training brochure, and he's distributed it to Joe and me for comments. Joe has made some comments, and I have it right now. I started working on it. I have a few more things that I'd like to add to it. But I think the next step would be for us to take it to Jeff Kors, who is now our liaison for the commission, and he was an advocate of training when the whole leaf blower issue was being discussed last year. And ultimately, David Reddy, or designee, has to approve the final version of the brochure, but it's in work, and Dan even took the extra step of having it translated into Spanish.
So it's moving along, and our goal is to have it ready and out by the summer so that we can give a full 6 months of communication prior to the implementation of the ordinance. That's the goal.
And actually, one thing that's good about it is the practices that it talks about for using leaf blowers apply whether or not the blowers are gas or electric. So they apply now. So as soon as the brochure gets out, that information will get to the gardeners and landscapers.
All right, we are at our new business section. The first one is the topic of milkweeds for monarchs, and a motion that is before us that is in print on your agenda. And I assume, Vice Chair Clark, you are moving that.
I will. I'd like to say a little bit more. Well,
Okay, why don't we get the motion? You make the motion, and then we'll get a second, and then we'll have discussion.
Right.
So we've had a motion made by Vice Chair Clark. Is there a second? Second by Commissioner Friedman, and now we are open for discussion on the motion that is before us.
There really isn't much more to say. We've talked about this for the last couple of months. I believe it was in December that Christine Hammond first came and spoke to us about the Milkweed for Monarchs plan and initiative. And then last month we talked more specifically about the mayor's pledge that is being sponsored by the National Wildlife Federation. We had a draft of a request to Mayor Moon to take the mayor's pledge for the city. And subsequently, we did a little bit of updating to the draft. I think we have a little bit more to do. And also, we've approached Councilmember Kors to talk to him about it and to get his advice as to how we might approach the mayor to get him to accept this, and perhaps and any advice on the wording of the request anyway. So what we have tonight, and it was sent to you, is the slightly updated version of the request to Mayor Moon, and we have the motion here to go forward and request that he take the pledge.
Other discussion? All those in favor of this motion say yes.
Yes.
Opposed, say no. Abstention? And the motion passes. So we will communicate to the mayor's office that information with accompanying documents so that his office is aware of what the pledge is all about.
And one more point on that topic. I put at every seat a copy of an information card about Milkweed for Monarchs that Christina and I developed. If anybody would like more copies to distribute at work or school or whatever, please let me know. I brought a bunch with me.
All right, we are at item 2, the advertising budget for World Environment Day. Commissioner Futterman is ill. She did send late this afternoon some information, which I think we can receive tonight and maybe agendize, because she's asking for a specific financial request. We have already approved $2,500 for World Environment Day, which is the first Sunday of June 3rd. So we've approved $2,500, which is for the cost of running the event that day, and some printed posters and flyers and associated things that relate to that. She had alerted us to the fact that there was would be a request for an advertising budget, which has been to place billboards in cooperation with Lamar Advertising, and they have a specific not-for-profit rate. So with a discounted rate and a second space for free, Jennifer wants you to know that one billboard would cost $1,750 for 1 month, which she would propose the month of May, which would be then, immediately before the event, or the possibility of 2 billboards for $2,500. So I would assume that we could put that on the agenda for March and still get the reservation in. Would that be the preferred way to do it, Jay? Or if someone wants to address it tonight, could we?
Sure, if you would like to discuss it further tonight and then take the action tonight, that would be fine. Expenditure of the dollars wouldn't occur until, the agreement is set up, and you'd have an opportunity to make any modifications or adjustments to it at that point in time, before that point in time.
Okay. So are there questions, not having Jennifer here, I don't know that I can only read the email. Are there questions about it? Commissioner Spry.
Sorry, my only question, and this might not be the right time to ask it, but, the downtown Palm Springs, where there's always big signs up, or do we have control over that? Can we advertise in the downtown? I mean, there's always some big banner advertising something.
Look at those people over there. They work for the city. Let's ask them.
We'll look into that. I'm not sure exactly how the banner program here is operated, but I do know different business groups use the vertical banners, and so the ones across the street, they do seem to have a certain, they're used for promotions of this type, and it may be with our recreational park department, I believe, that does actually manage that, so we will look into that further.
Okay, good question. And I'm reading the rest of this. I mean, just for your information, apparently, if you don't have a discount or nonprofit status, 2 billboards would be $5,500. So because we are a city and getting a discount, it would be $25,000. So, oh, I'm sorry, Dara Shea.
It's not really a question, but I can, I know some people who do the Indian News Network at my school, which is like daily announcements. It's a news network. So I can get them to advertise for World Environment Day when the event gets closer.
Please.
In May. So
yep, that'd be great.
Put up flyers if there's flyers that you want. So.
Okay, and so be sure, I think you and Commissioner Futterman have talked anyway, so
yeah.
I'll be in touch about that.
I've done the event in prior years, so I can put up flyers again this year.
Super. All right. I don't see anybody making a motion, so we'll put it on the agenda for March, and
we should have.
I think the only advantage of addressing it tonight is just her ability to get a preferred location, but we'll do what you wish to do.
We should have the additional information for you for comparison purposes at that time also.
Okay, perfect. All right, great. Okay, also, item 3 was just raised tangentially at the last meeting that our community gardens, which is adjacent to the Demuth Park Community Center, is in not good shape. And frankly, I haven't been over there in a while myself to look around. Has anybody looked at that space in a while? So you have, Gary. Speak. Tell us, what's it?
It's pretty overgrown. It could use a lot of attention, that's for sure.
Okay. Does it appear that any residents are using specific plots for their own?
I only saw any kind of plant or vegetation in 2 other than weeds.
Okay. And there's what, maybe a dozen planting beds?
I think there's 20.
Okay.
I think there's 26.
26.
Okay.
But I do have at least 4 different people with using about 6 or 7 different plots now.
Theoretically?
Yeah.
Okay.
And some of them say it's a mess, some of them say it looks great, so I don't know. We did fix the watering problems. At one point, the homeless were pulling out the timer for the watering and using the electricity for their own use, but that has now been hardwired so that they can't unplug the timer for the watering.
Okay. And we don't have any, there isn't anybody who is sort of overseeing that space to keep it looking nice. I mean, the idea is that residents would manage their own plots and that would sort of take care of things, right?
Correct. I do know Parks and Rec people will sometimes go in there and help clean it up a little bit too.
Okay. Well, so who owns it? Who owns that project? Do we own it as a commission? It's our thing. Okay. All right. Well, that answers that question. Okay. And it's something that Michelle used to sort of address, and there were some folks who were interested in it, and where those folks are, I don't know at this point. Okay.
Where is, excuse me, where is it relative to the building?
It's behind, it's on the south
On the south side of the building.
of the Demuth Community Center.
Yeah. Thanks. Dara.
When I was younger, I remember going to camp at the Demuth Community Center and going out to the garden and planting. So I'm not sure if there are still camp programs going on there, or if students going there might be interested in helping for community service or just being involved.
Yeah.
But
Commissioner Futterman had been working with the children in the schools on planting out there. What the status is on that, I'm not sure, but she had done it in the past.
Okay. And Darius, let me just ask you one other question. Who is I spoke with him once, who's the teacher at Palm Springs High that works with garden plots there? Do you know his name?
yeah, that's, so you want his first and last name, I guess. I think it's Eric is his first name, last name is Cross.
Yep, that's
and
it.
Yeah,
Eric Cross.
he helps our garden club. I'm in the garden club, so
Yeah.
I can talk to
Okay.
him if there's any, I don't
Okay.
know, if
All
there's
right.
something you need.
Well,
so.
you know, it's not a good thing to miss a meeting, so we'll talk to Commissioner Futterman about maybe some ways that we can get at at some of these things. So that'd be good. All right.
I'll volunteer
Yes.
to bring that up and work with her on that.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful.
And, you know, and do we need to assess if this is something that the community is really using and that we want to put our energy towards?
Well, I suspect that, I mean, I know that other communities, for instance, I know that Palm Desert has a waiting list of people who want to use their community gardens because their plots are well managed. They have and maybe they have a higher percentage of condo dwellers in Palm Desert. I'm not sure, but you have to wait till somebody dies in Palm Desert in order to get a community one of the garden plots. So I'm not sure why it would be so popular there and not popular here, except lack of awareness and publicity.
That's what I was gonna say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's probably it.
Do you need a volunteer to take over the community gardens? Is I don't want to take something away from
As the
Ms.
bishop
Futterman.
said to me, take thou authority.
Okay.
Commissioner Spry is now the commissioner
Okay,
responsible
garden.
for
And
community gardens.
What subcommittee does that fall under?
Well, we're going to just have you as the liaison right
Okay.
now. And I'm happy to go over and walk you around if you haven't been there.
Haven't. And
Okay, let's talk. It's right by my house.
Okay, cool.
And I'll promise you a glass of lemonade afterwards. Okay? All right.
It seems
Commissioner
like
Gauthier.
promoting that at the farmer's market might be a good way
Right,
to get some
and
interest.
yep, farmer's market would be another place. Although we're sort of getting, by the time we get this going, we're going to be at the end of the growing season for us. So really having you on this and getting it ready for next year is going to be a good thing. Yeah.
So who knows the most about it? Dan.
What
Can
do
I come
need to
see you in
know?
your
What do
chambers
you
later?
need?
We
We
can
can
talk
discuss it
offline.
later,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, we'll,
So,
yeah,
Talk to
us
me.
three.
probably.
Okay.
Yeah, but excellent suggestion, Commissioner Gauthier, that we promote it there. All right, just the last item is item 4. Just, I understand from City Council that they did assign some of the city commissions a liaison, and we have been assigned Councilmember Coors as our liaison. Vice Chair Clark and I are trying to schedule a meeting, or the assistant who works with council and mayor's office is trying to schedule something for Councilmember Coors with us. And we want to talk about with him, among some other things that are on our agenda, a time that he might meet with us in some sort of study session format, so that we could have a little bit wider discussion, and also a two-way discussion, and hear from Councilmember Coors what he thinks are council priorities or areas that we need to research. So we'll let you know as that proceeds. Hopefully that meeting will happen between now and the March meeting. All right, we are at committee and commissioner reports. Number 1, Standing Committee on Solar and Green Building, Commissioner Friedman.
Okay, so you've been hearing for the last couple of months about our Modernism and Sustainability Workshop during Modernism Week, and it actually occurred this past Sunday afternoon. And thanks to Daniel, also Vice Chair Clark, for their great assistance. In Commissioner Goins' absence, I moderated the panel using some of the materials he prepared, and also had prepared the brochure before you, which we gave to everyone. Commissioner Vice Chair Clark handed out to everyone, and it's a sort of a guide to what I did when I renovated my house sustainably. So we had someone from the U.S. Green Building Council, someone from the American Society of Interior Designers, and a local landscape designer, each talking about their specific area. And I think the best part of it was actually the Q&A, which was intentional. Oh, wow, great photo, thank you. The Q&A, because we actually tried to leave fairly close to a half an hour out of a 1-hour session to get questions from folks, just sort of how to. That's Dominique Hargraves of the U.S. Green Building Council, LA chapter. That would be Derek Schmidt of the American Society of Interior Designers, and then finally Troy Bankert of a local outside landscape design. So we had about 75 people attend, which out of a room that did feet 150. We quote-unquote sold all of the tickets. They were all reserved several weeks before. And discussion that we'll have at our committee meeting this coming Monday afternoon, is if we do this again, should we charge? Because perhaps people felt that since they didn't pay for it, they didn't mind skipping it. Maybe if they had paid $10, they might have actually shown up. So we have to talk about that. So we're meeting, as I said, on Monday to debrief and discuss next steps. One that's sort of already on the agenda is, first of all, to see if we can take this brochure. First of all, Daniel will be posting everything on the website, but see if we can make this into something that, we do as an actual formal handout to folks and have for all of our events, like the commission's brochures. Excuse me. And then subsequent to the, right after the workshop, I was approached by Dick Burkett, who's the vice chair of the Historic Site Preservation Board. As you may know, they have their annual preservation workshop seminar in generally a Saturday in May, and he asked that perhaps we could do this as one of the sessions during the annual HSBB seminar. So I think that would be really good, give more visibility to our commission, and I know it does fulfill one of our goals of sort of working closely with some of the other boards and commissions. So I'll take that up with Commissioner Goins at our meeting next Monday, and we'll probably follow up, but I think that's a really good next step to work with HSPB for there. I have a quick solar comment. Are there any sort of questions on the workshop? Okay. All right, on solar, you have in your agenda packet in two pieces. The solar resolution that I mentioned last month, that was passed by City Council, its January 3rd meeting. Just as sort of a guide to the document there, the two pieces are not necessarily right. There's the resolution, which was sort of the whole bunch of whereas clauses, and that was not changed. However, there were from the floor some changes proposed by Councilmember Middleton based on language that I sent her. So the actual resolution policy statement that's the resolution I said, which is the cover, if you will, but the actual policy statement is a separate document, Daniel. I think it's called final policy statement on the PDF. Yeah, City Council policy statement, final PDF. So that is that PDF. There it is there. That is the final version. And I saw Director Fagg on the way in, and he said he'll work with City Clerk's office to put the cover and the policy statement together into a single document, and then that's what should actually get posted once the two are put together on our website. And then as soon as I have that document, I had mentioned that I had been contacted last year by the National League of Cities, so I'll follow up with them about possibly participating in designation in their SolSmart program, so perhaps we get a little plaque out of it. So at least for the moment, I think that's it for solar. I'll sort of update if anything comes along, and obviously working closely with Councilmember Coors, we can discuss potentially the next step, which would be residential retrofits, but that's not on the current agenda, so I probably won't be saying too much about solar for the next couple of months.
Questions of Commissioner Friedman? You should know that Commissioner Friedman was the primary author of a Friday, February 2nd column in the Desert Sun, which gave a lot of good information about the Sustainability Commission and what was going on, current projects that we have, and promoted the Modernism event. And it also promoted our e-waste event that was noted in that article. So, so thank you to David Friedman. All right, we are at the Standing Committee on Waste Reduction. Commissioners McCann and Clark.
Okay, a couple of housekeeping issues first. At our January 22nd meeting, we welcome Jessica Spry here as our newest member of the Waste Reduction Subcommittee. So welcome, Jessica, and thank you for your participation. Our next meeting is this coming Monday, the 26th at 2 p.m. And all are invited to attend who might have an interest. Okay. What's been going on? The February 7th at the bi-monthly public meeting of the Palm Springs City Council, I presented a 2-minute argument to commissioners for the C&D ordinance that's on the table right now. I was stopped very appropriately by Mayor Moon with about 4 or 5 words left, but nevertheless, council members voted unanimously to move forward in developing the ordinance, and council members Lisa Middleton and J.R. Roberts were assigned to a subcommittee to work on development. We have 3 other items: household battery recycling, reducing polystyrene takeout containers for restaurants, and public beverage recycling containers. And I'm going to hand the floor over to Vice Chairman Clark to discuss those.
And just one thing to add about the C&D ordinance, I did communicate with council members Roberts and Middleton, stating that we would be available to provide them any background information, when and if they needed it. See, the first thing that I wanted to talk about is the household battery recycling, and I did put together a plan, updated the plan that actually we presented several months ago on battery recycling, and I'd like to go through that briefly. Hopefully you've had a chance to look at it ahead of time. That's it. What we've been talking about in the Waste Reduction Committee for several months is developing a network of drop-off points in Palm Springs where residents can bring old household batteries for recycling, and then we would provide collection containers at the drop-off points. We would identify a hauler to pick up the batteries and ensure that they are recycled. We would also produce and distribute bags, which would have our sustainable city logo on, for residents to have at home to collect used batteries and carry them to the drop-off points. So the plan that I'm presenting tonight, which we've talked about in our committee, is based upon using one particular recycler, and that is Battery Solutions, who's located in Howell, Michigan. And I've talked about them before. They sell collection containers that can be placed at drop-off points and postage-paid containers for shipping. If you just skip to the second chart quickly, the container on the left, not to scale, is a 36-inch tall collection container that we would purchase. We could put our logo on it and any other information that we wanted, but that would be located at the places that we have confirmed as drop-off points for batteries. And it will hold up to 55 pounds of batteries. Going along with that, on the right is a shipping container that holds 55 pounds of batteries, and it's postage paid, so we would also purchase some of those in this plan, so that when the collection containers were full, all that would have to be done at the site would be to dump the batteries into the shipping container and send it off in the mail. Back to the first chart, please. So the cost estimate that I put together is based upon 8 drop-off points in Palm Springs. Initially, our concept was to include retail stores as drop-off points, particularly stores that sell batteries, thinking that when people go to buy new batteries, they'd be reminded to drop off their old batteries, their used batteries. Rob has been doing some investigation on that and has discovered, has gotten a little bit of pushback on that. Apparently there's some county ordinances about hazardous materials and stores and so forth. So we'd have to figure out how to work around that, and we do have a plan to address that. But the suggestion right now is that we just have drop-off points in Palm Springs city facilities. And what the estimate is based upon is having a drop-off point at City Hall, the 4 open fire stations now, the library, the Chamber of Commerce, which is not a city facility but works with the city, and 2 other ones which I've been thinking about but really haven't investigated. Part of our plan also would be to have these drop-off locations geographically dispersed so people wouldn't have to go too far from where they live in order to drop off the batteries. And I think the city facilities would meet that, and adding grocery stores and hardware stores would even add to the dispersion and the number of potential drop-off points. The estimate is based on recycling 1,000 to 2,000 pounds of batteries per year, and that information I got from talking to the city of Indio, where they currently have a battery recycling project with Battery Solutions. And in Indio, in 2015, their first year, they recycled 1,400 pounds of batteries. In 2016, they recycled 1,700 pounds of batteries. So Indio's about twice as big as with permanent population as Palm Springs. So I just, as a starting point, estimated based on 1,000 to 2,000 pounds of batteries per year. We're also considering other hauler or recycler options, and Desert Arc, which does collect batteries, is a potential, and I need to investigate with them further. We have project milestones, which would be good to be able to stick to by April, identifying a hauler or recycler. In other words, are we going to go with Battery Solutions or go another way? Confirm the drop-off points, and then by May, design and produce collection containers for the drop-off points and bags for residents. And Dan did give me some information about bags as well, and those were included in the cost estimate. And hopefully start the recycling program in publicity and outreach by June. On the last chart, I do include the estimated cost. And there's a non-recurring part of the cost, something that's would be done one time, not yearly. That one part of that is the plastic bags, although the estimate is based upon purchasing 10,000 bags, which we would get printing on. Again, we could probably put on the bags, the location of the drop-off points, so people would know where to bring their batteries. But the bags are not exactly non-recurring, because after we used up the 10,000, we probably would want some more. But I don't think we'd be spending a lot on bags for the first few years, or after the first year, for a couple of years. And then the collection containers, 8 of them, they're like $110 a piece. And then publicity and outreach, we would want to include that. The recurring cost would be the shipping containers, and that would be $2,200 to $4,400 per year. And that's based upon the range of 1,000 pounds of batteries per year to 2,000 pounds of batteries per year. And then we would also have some staff time required for publicity and outreach, which the committee would work with Dan on that. See, there's some other point that I forgot. Even though right now we're not looking at locating the drop-off containers at retail stores, although we may get over that hurdle quickly, we could still put out the bags at retail stores, so right near where they sell batteries. So when people come to buy batteries, they could see the bags and take those home, and then they would know where to bring the batteries for recycling. So that's part of the project, and we'll be discussing this at our meeting on Monday.
Commissioner Clark, is there any reimbursement from this recycling company? It seems like they're getting all the benefit and we're paying for the container. They're not returning the container, this recycling, and they're not recycling?
We would have to buy additional containers once we've used them up. But the reason that we have to pay is because the market for the materials, the raw materials that are obtained from breaking down the batteries is very small. They don't get much money for those materials. They get steel, which can be used as a raw material. They get paper, and they get manganese and some other material which can be used in fertilizers. But they don't get much money for those materials, and that's the reason for the cost.
And let me just ask, what is the amount of money that is the cap, Jay, that you can authorize without us having to go out for RFP?
Well, we need comparisons regardless.
Okay.
So I'm interpreting this as creating a budget line item based on these amounts that we can work with moving into the future. Right. Using the one company as the example, but of course they can also be included in any kind of solicitation.
And we will investigate at least one other company, but we'd like this on the agenda for Monday. And actually, if you could be there to perhaps help us with some of the city or legal issues that we might have to overcome, that would be great. And one thing that we learned late this afternoon is that there is money available, grant money available for projects such as this by Cal Recycle. And so hopefully we should be able to discuss this at our committee meeting on Monday. The next item is the Styrofoam containers.
I just noticed about 2 weekends ago I was shopping at IKEA, and they do recycle batteries too, so maybe they figured out how to get around the retail issue.
Okay.
So. Yeah, it is.
And actually, I've contacted a project manager at Battery Solutions, and I have a telecon planned with her on Thursday. She's an account manager, actually, so she sets up these projects for various cities all over the country. And I'm going to ask her specifically about California or counties in California and how perhaps that obstacle could be overcome. So that may help us as well.
And a follow-up for you, Commissioner. So this IKEA, is it really in a different county, or is it in Riverside County?
It's off of Barranca Street in, what's the city?
Yeah, it's not.
West Covina.
Yeah,
It's
West
in West
Covina is
Okay,
not in
okay,
Riverside County.
Because it is Riverside County apparently that has these regulations that the retailers are concerned about.
Oh, really?
Although, I'm sorry, if I remember correctly, they just wanted us to give them a waiver. I mean, they said they'd be willing to do it, just give them a waiver that says you will not be subject to the hazardous waste. So it's kind of a paperwork permission thing as opposed to their desire or any real big hassle. So if it's not a big deal to just pass over an ordinance, then it's not an issue.
But we'll
Correct.
we'll work that
Yeah.
as well. We need to work that. Is that it for batteries? Any more questions, comments? The next topic is the polystyrene or styrofoam food takeout containers, and I think this goes back to our November, December meeting where we got a letter from, Councilmember Roberts forwarded a letter from State Senator Ben Allen, who's in a district in LA County. And there were a couple of things that he was asking, and Councilmember Roberts referred it to us. One was for the city to take a position on state legislation to phase out the use of polystyrene foam in food takeout containers. And the second thing was, in addition to that, to take local actions with regard to phasing out styrofoam food takeout containers. I contacted Councilmember Roberts about that time to talk to him more specifically about the first item where the city would take a position on the state legislation, because I felt that wasn't something that the commission or the Waste Reduction Committee could do, or we felt that. And I did talk to him this past week about it. The other part of it is I did contact Senator Allen's office and requested some information about local ordinances in other cities or templates for ordinances for phasing out styrofoam food containers. I haven't heard back from them, but I'll contact them again if I don't get any more information. When I did talk to Councilmember Roberts last week, and I think everybody has gotten a copy of an email that he sent, but he did strongly encourage the commission to work on this project, phasing out the containers. And he had several points that he made. One was that we should look at other cities and see what ordinances they have, and that's something that, since it's been referred to the Waste Reduction Committee, we can talk about next week. I have been told that Portland, Oregon, and Eugene, Oregon do have such ordinances, so those might be a good place to start. Also, we would have to do some research on the alternatives to the styrofoam containers. I know some places use papers, but that's something that we'd have to have more information about as well, and he encouraged us to get that information. This also has been discussed with Councilmember Christy Holstige, and she's very much in support of it as well. So it's really an update for the commission on a task that the Waste Reduction Committee is working on, will continue to work on. And finally, the beverage containers. Gary brought up to us at the last meeting that money is available for purchasing containers for recycling bottles and cans too, I believe. And so we discussed that at our last committee meeting, and we decided that before jumping into a plan to purchase more containers, we should assess what we have in various public areas in the city. And so in my travels around different parts of the city, I took photos of various containers, and Jessica and I had planned to go to downtown yesterday, and I canceled because I had to finish up the report on battery recycling. But anyway, so I'll just go through these quickly and make some observations. These are at the airport, two different types They're not designated as trash or recycling containers. They are just containers with big openings. A couple places in the airport, they have setups like this, where there are several different containers side by side, designated what goes into those various containers. That looks pretty good. One thing that we need to investigate as well is, are people putting the right things in the containers, and is recycling going on, or when the containers are emptied, are the materials being recycled? See the next one, little differentiation, trash versus recycling, but not as much detail about what can be recycled in the container on the right. And I think there's one more, or is that it for the airport? Okay. And if you walk out the door, this is what you'll see. And so there are containers there. There's the big blue bin that everybody has at their house, and there's a one on the right says recycling. The one on the left, I think that's plastic. There's another. It's hard to read on that one. But then in the next chart, there's two more right next to what's out there. That one says plastic, and the other one says white copy paper. But these are clearly in public areas of City Hall. A lot of people come here for meetings and so forth, so those containers are available to the public. These are outside the building on the east side of the building, actually near where Michelle's office used to be. And these specifically do specify what can be recycled in the container. Forward in the picture, cans, bottles. I'm having a hard time reading it. Paper. Okay, so that's clearly a recycling container, and it specifies what can go in there. And then, in a couple of places around City Hall, the one on the left is outside the chambers, council chambers, and the other one is outside the main entrance. Containers like this, similar to what we see at the airport, don't specify what goes in them, probably trash and recycling. Okay. Downtown, I just have a couple. I happen to be down. This is right near the new Starbucks, a very modern-looking, stylized container that has a side for recycling and a side for litter. And the next one is one of many downtown that looks like the ones at City Hall and at the airport. We're not specified what goes in there, but probably trash and recycling. And we'll take more of a look downtown in the next.
Starbucks is private from Starbucks. That's not one of ours, is it? I doubt it.
I've never seen this one. I'm not sure where this one came from.
I've seen two of those in that area. This one was closest to Starbucks.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then other locations. This is one that Christine sent to me. This is actually relevant to something that's coming up. This is at some restaurant where food wastes go on the left and other materials for recycling go on the right. So that one's just a good example of clear labeling, and that will be relevant when the organic waste updated ordinance kicks in next year. And then just a couple more. The one on the left, I saw at an event in Rancho Mirage on Saturday. That's provided by Burtec, which is the contractor for trash and recycling in Rancho Mirage. But that's a very good temporary container for events that has a small hole in the top and says just bottles and cans. That one I saw Sunday at camp during the panel discussion that David was talking about earlier. Clearly, it doesn't say bottles, but it's plastic and it has a small hole, so it does differentiate between small things and recycling other things. So this is really just to give an overview of the wide variety of containers that can be found around the city. We'll be looking at more, and a committee will be having a discussion and making some recommendations about what we ought to do with the grant money that's available. Any comments or questions?
That was one of the things I wanted to talk about with my principal when I met with him, because I don't think there's a specific recycling program at place in my school, and I see a lot of people just throw things in the trash because there's not a recycling bin. Some of the teachers have recycling bins, but some of them don't, and I think that with a survey that I made, I want to go around, and I think that a lot of them would be willing to maintain one. So I don't know, that's something we can work on. But.
Yeah, I think that input would be great. And one thing that I'm thinking and wanted to discuss with the committee is that perhaps we can take on buildings or venues one at a time. I was at the farmer's market a couple of weeks ago, and all they have out there are cardboard containers provided by PSDS with plastic liners in them. But those are, like the generic cans that we see all over the city. Those don't specify recycling or trash. And I spoke to Megan about that, and brought up the question about recycling. And it turns out that the farmer's market, which is at the Camelot Theaters, which is now the cultural center, they have a big dumpster for trash, but they don't have a dumpster for recycling, so they don't even do recycling there. And in fact, they don't have room for a dumpster for recycling materials. So that's something she said she would talk to the Camelot management about. But that might be another place like the high school where we could, work one place at a time and move forward with regard to recycling. But especially the farmers market, I think people there would be really tuned into recycling, but there aren't any containers at all for recycling.
Commissioner Clark, what do we have in our parks?
I was just going to say.
We haven't gone to the parks. That was on our agenda for Monday. But
well, I do walk by Sunrise Park every day, and my recollection, and I know for sure there's one there that I've put stuff in. It is again just those non-differentiated trash receptacles that don't tell you what you should put in there. So.
Gary may be able to help us.
No, what I was just gonna say, what he just said, they're just the concrete round ones that
Yeah.
the city uses
Okay.
throughout downtown and such.
So I just wanted to ask the question because it sounds like this is going to be a discussion in the Waste Reduction Committee on Monday. And is that right?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Gary, do you attend or do you
Yes,
ever
he does.
attend those
Yes.
groups? Okay, so you'll be a part of that. In order to spend this grant money, do you need the action of the full commission to spend the money? Who owns the grant?
Yeah, who owns the money?
I mean, what I'm wondering is if the Waste Reduction Subcommittee in consultation with staff can figure out the right solutions, that seems like the best place to lodge the discussion and the decision. And I tend to trust people and their expertise, so.
Sure. Perhaps if the commission would like to delegate that to the committee?
We'd cover ourselves if we did that.
Correct.
Well, I'm just wondering, because Gary, you had mentioned that there's a deadline that we can't, if we want to access this $13,000, we don't want to miss the deadline, and that's coming up.
That's actually the first part of April.
Okay.
So we could wait until the next commission meeting. I would rather not, but we could wait.
Okay. Well, I, for one, am willing to authorize and delegate this decision to the Waste Reduction Subcommittee, but I don't want to dictate that. If some non-waste reduction person would want to move that.
And I would just add that as a city expenditure at that level for that entire amount would require city manager approval also.
Sure,
So it would
sure. It has to
have
go
that
through its
benefit
channels,
too.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
And the purpose tonight was just to inform the
Yeah.
whole commission about
Yeah.
what we're looking at and what our approach is going to be.
So someone outside of the.
Well,
committee
I
needs to
thought,
call it.
I thought it maybe would be nice if someone who wasn't a waste reduction person would want to authorize them, but I'm not seeing anybody make that motion. So,
Move that the Waste Reduction Subcommittee look into obtaining this grant. They're
Okay.
meeting on Monday, February 26th.
yeah, okay, you're authorizing them to make a decision, which would then be referred to the city manager's office for final approval. All right? Is there a second? Second from Commissioner Friedman. Now, we'll have a discussion on not the topic, but on authorizing the Waste Reduction Committee to make this decision. Is there discussion? And anybody can discuss. Did you want to say something, Commissioner McKeon? I don't see anybody wanting to discuss. All in favor of authorizing the Waste Reduction Committee to make a decision, which would then be referred to the city manager's office, say yes?
Yes.
Opposed, say no. Abstain? You're authorized. Yes,
I
Dara.
have a question. Since I'm not a commissioner, so I don't participate in that.
You can't
Correct?
vote, but you
Yeah.
have voice.
Okay, I didn't want to not participate if I
Yeah,
could,
yeah.
so.
But we always welcome your voice.
Thank you.
So, thank you. All right, yes, Commissioner Wilson.
I did want to make a comment for Dara's benefit, just that I'm not familiar with PSUSD policy, but I am familiar with another school district in that they have a stipulation in their custodial staff contract that precludes them having to separate the waste, the recycling from general waste. So you might check that situation to see if they have any sort of stipulation there, because they may not have to separate the waste when they dump
Yeah,
it.
could be a district policy, it could be a labor issue. Yeah, your principal will be able to help you.
And that's one of the reasons why I would like to get the teachers involved, because I can't do that on my own, because I won't be there next year. But if I can get the teachers to volunteer with that, in just managing their own recycling bin, because many have them already, I think that if we can get a majority of the teachers on board, and they can maintain their own classrooms recycling bin, that it will at least benefit most of the school.
Can I ask a quick question, Gary?
Please.
Gary, do you know off the top of your head if there's a significant price difference? If whoever it is, the school, was able to put in 2 different containers and collect separately and not, and have it right, is then Burtek's cost to pick up, or whoever the disposal is, if they pick up 2 different sources, then I'm assuming it's about money, right? And whatever, like if the school district, if we wanted to get the Palm Springs School District to recycle, and we were able somehow to provide them with the cans, would their cost go up significantly?
Excuse me. I don't think their costs would go up significantly. And my experience has been that Palm Springs disposal is pretty easy to work with. I think where the issue may lie is with the school, because I think Palm Springs disposal would be willing to put a 3-yard bin out there and collect it once or twice a week, whatever. Is getting the material to the bin is what the issue is, I believe.
Okay, well, that's solvable. More solvable than when money's involved.
Well, maybe.
Yes,
Or not.
Oh, you've never talked to Palm Springs Unified
well.
School District? Yes, it's quite a feat. All right, all right, so I want to come back to Commissioners McCann and Vice Chair Clark for whatever else they have in the waste reduction report.
That's all I had.
Okay, oh, all right. Are there other, yes.
I would say it's high time we moved on.
Okay, all right, all right. So we are at item 3, which should have been called the Ad Hoc Committee on Walkability and Pedestrian Planning. Commissioners Gauthier and Wilson, anything?
Just that, well, as Commissioner Gauthier just mentioned without the microphone on. We essentially don't have anything to report. I did speak to Mr. Garcia, I guess about 2 weeks ago, and he indicated that there is essentially no request of the commission at this stage regarding the Safe Routes to School grant. Probably won't be for some time. He did indicate that, kind of as a side note, that the city did issue an RFP for sidewalk gap closure that's related more to Measure J community projects. So I will just mention I did print out the list of some of those gap closure items. Work at Alejo Road, Amato Road, Baristo, Camino Real, Farrell, East Palm Canyon, North Indian Canyon, Racket Club, Saturnino, and Sunny Dunes. So looks like Christine left, but thanks to her efforts and other Measure J commissioners for that. So that's it. Also, Tom did allude to when he was talking about Laverne Way in the city council request, he mentioned the issue of the term road diet. And I had pitched a request to some city staff, and in my request, I did mention that term in my subject line. And a term that I prefer is capacity improvement project rather than road diet, because road diet tends to get the goat of people who are more focused on the automobile, whereas capacity improvement project really gets to the issue of, if you're thinking in terms of complete streets, it lends itself more to the pedestrian experience as well as the bicyclist experience. And in this case, because you're not really constraining capacity of the automobile, because there's plenty of capacity left for the automobile driver, then you're really improving capacity for, or at least accommodating capacity for the auto driver as well. So just a thought.
And just for the record, I did, as chair, receive a email from former Chair Brett Klein and former Commissioners Vic Capello and Nancy Ferguson offering to help the commission in working on the Laverne route issue and some other bike issues. But it seems to me that what I heard from Director Garcia is that really that train's pretty far down the track, and we just need to get information right now to his office, and we need citizens, particularly citizens of those neighborhoods, to speak, any appropriate feedback. And so it seems to me that, this was a recommendation from Active Transportation some time ago as part of our plan. So I'm thinking that I could work on a draft of something and consult with Commissioner Friedman as someone in the neighborhood, and consult with the folks who are tangentially involved in transportation, at least for review of a document. That would be Commissioners Wilson and Gauthier, to have a letter that we would send to Director Garcia on our behalf that would support our plan as it exists. Does that make sense? And I will invite the former commissioners to speak on their own, which sounds like that needs to happen. They can forward their own concerns. Commissioner Friedman.
Yeah, while Director Garcia was speaking, I did look at the council, the staff report for when this came up at council, and the bid deadline is April. The date at which council will consider the submitted bids is April 4th, the first meeting in April. So I would suggest that that's essentially our deadline, that this needs to get to council sufficiently in advance, and perhaps even a few days earlier, so our letter could be included in the staff report.
Okay.
So I guess that would be what, the 31st or something, whatever day that is, that Thursday before, like a week before.
I'll start on some talking points right away and consult with you commissioners, and we'll formulate something that could be a nice document.
Yeah, I have a fairly large amount of material, so I'll mail it to you so you don't have to go look for things.
Okay. All right, perfect.
Just
All
one thing to add. My understanding of their request, though, is that they wanted to go back and look at the rationale for including Laverne with the other 3 streets that were approved for road diets back in 2016. I think there were several more candidate streets for road diets, and the Active Transportation Committee met specifically with council members Roberts and Coors about that, and they narrowed it down to those 4 streets.
Okay, and those 4 streets were not, are you saying were not a part of the staff report? Only
No.
Laverne?
No, they were all part of the
Okay.
staff report, but there were others back in 2016 that were being considered, and only those 4 that were discussed at the last city council meeting made it to the list for road diets.
Okay. I think the point was that although this was decided in 2016 when it last came up, that originally the loop was to include South Palm Canyon. That was taken off of the list in 2016. And so the question was, although I thought that discussion had occurred, that should the city still do Laverne if South Palm Canyon is no longer going to essentially close the loop. But my recollection of discussion at that time was that Laverne was going to remain, and it's now once again become controversial. It was supposed to be, well, we'll do Laverne, but not South Palm Canyon, and now Laverne is potentially also on the chopping block. What I have in my materials, because as I said, I've been working on this for quite a few years, is the staff reports for 2016 as well, and can do that. And I'm happy to sit down with you and Commissioner Wilson and Director Garcia just to provide any additional background.
Okay, all right. We'll muddle our way through this one way or another. Help is always good. All right. Anything else, gentlemen, on walkable to pedestrian? Nope. All right. Commissioner Futterman's absent. We're at outreach. I'm sorry. We're at water. Commissioner Friedman.
Very quickly, DWA discussed at their morning meeting that the January conservation level, the reduction from the 2013 baseline, was only 6.25%. In December, it was 7%. Both of those figures are below their target conservation of 10 to 13%. And they said, well, it's probably because the warm, both months were warm and dry compared with potentially on the benchmark. But I will follow up with Ashley Metzger. She wasn't in the office today, because if there's also February when it's less warm, then there's clearly, I think, more outreach that we need to be doing to work with DWA to let folks know that we are probably back in a drought and they need to conserve. I did read, I believe, last week in the LA Times that in fact there's backsliding and that the conservation is far below where it was a year or so ago. And the rain is not coming this year. So I'll be following up on that, but I think that remains a concern.
That's it? Questions of Commissioner Friedman? Commissioner comments? Any comments? I think we all did get a notice that the CV Link dedication is this Friday, 10 a.m., just east of the intersection of Gene Autry and Vistacino, just east of the Escena entrance. So if you're interested in being a part of that first link of the CV Link, 10 o'clock on Friday. Anything else? Is there a motion that we adjourn until our next meeting on Tuesday, March 20th?
So moved.
So moved. Is there a second? Second. All in favor say yes. And you may adjourn yourselves by standing up. Thank you very much.